Imagine this scenario. You're making your way across bustling Paris for the Gare Saint-Lazare in the 8th arrondissement. In your pocket, tickets for the train. In your backpack or your bag, a beach towel, swimwear. In your mind, exciting thoughts of excess, fun, and sunshine. You board the train. 2 hours and 45 minutes, you step foot into a new territory with sights and sounds unlike any you've seen. The clattering of dice on the table in the casino. The smell of fresh hay at the racecourse. Everything seems possible. You have made it to your destination. D is for Deauville, the subject of this week's episode of the Eiffel Tower. My name's Oliver G. I'm taking you to Normandy this week, but let's start with a little music from Pres Maxson. A little word on that song from Pres Maxson, our maestro. He says the song is called Bring on the Dancing Horses. Oh. Because when I think of Deauville, I think of horses. That's what he says. By the early 80s new wave pop group Echo and the Bunnymen. If D is for Deauville, D is also for different. And I've been making music for Paris, but Deauville isn't Paris, so I did things differently. I put a little layer of drums and a guitar I rarely play down alongside a little banjo riff, a rarity on an Eiffel tune, and I used a piano and a glockenspiel.
Oh, but of course.
to handle the melody. The result is sunny and beachy, not in a cliche tropical way. It's in a major key, the obvious key of
D.
Yeah. And it's absent of dark or bluesy tones.
Dazzling.
Delightful.
Done it again.
Anyway, before we get into anything, I think some context is important. Deauville, we've been a bunch of times before.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, 2 or 3 times maybe?
Something like that, yep.
The truth is, I've never really known what to do. That's the truth. I go to the beach, huge beach.
Massive.
Like, it's even a long way just to get to the water, big beach. So
yeah,
wide,
so it's long,
and
big strip.
Yeah. And so I sort of hang out at the beach, have a look around, pop into the Hotel Normandy Barrière.
Yeah, I used the bathroom. I feel like Deauville is one of these places that you keep hearing about, and it's so like mythical almost. It's so iconic, but I didn't know much more about it. We've been, as you said, a couple of times, even stayed a night once, but never really got under the skin of it.
And you say famous in a way that kind of famous in English, in the English language. Like in the French language, it's in lots of famous books, lots of famous movies and stuff like that. English language, not so much. Like some Agatha Christie, they say Ian Fleming based Casino Royale on the casino in Deauville.
Really?
But not for sure. They say. So there's all these like sort of Great Gatsby mentions Deauville. I don't think it's had its F. Scott Fitzgerald Antibes moment.
I see, yeah.
You know? So anyway, so with this in mind, there's another thing it's kind of controversial. I'm hesitant to even say it.
Spit it out.
I'd heard, and it's common in Paris, people say that it's the 21st arrondissement of Paris.
Well, typical us Parisians like to claim it.
I never heard you refer to yourself as a Parisian before. Was that the first?
I just tried it. Did it fly? I'm not sure.
I think it flew.
I'm not sure.
People, so much so that when we took a taxi to get to the Gare Saint-Lazare, and the taxi driver said it's the 21st arrondissement of Paris. He said it's the Parisian Riviera. Yeah. But I happen to know that some people up there don't like that. So I'm hesitant to say it. But I wanted to put it out there that it's a thing. And so I was like, I want to feature this. I like it up there. I want to explore more. D can be for Deauville.
Perfect.
But I needed help. So what I did is I've never done this before, contacted the tourism board of Deauville. And I said, look, D is going to be for Deauville. Can you open doors for me? And they go, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean open doors? I was like, introduce me to people to interview and show me the best things that the town has to offer. And if there's a hotel room in it, I'll take it. I think that's exactly what I said. And they said, we're going to check you out and get back to you. And so I put out as many good episodes as I could. And then Laurent from the tourism bureau came through, the tourism office came through and hooked us up. So everything that you're about to hear was set out for us from the tourism office. They wanted to make sure we had a good time.
But the experience is truly our own.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm going to give you an honest review of this town that we've been to several times. So first things first, in this episode, you're going to hear mainly from the two people I interviewed, which is a storyteller who works with horse racing, like a journalist and a documentary maker. And then you're going to hear from the curator of sort of the biggest museum in town. But between that, I think you and I tell what we did in our sort of interpretation of everything. First things first. I think what you need to know for this town is it's a small town. I feel like it's a small town. And it's new by French standards. Like a lot of towns in France are old and medieval. Like you go to some places that have a 1,000-year-old wall running around it. Not the case here.
No, this is it's fairly new.
1860s-ish. Let's put that in perspective. In Paris, this is 20 years before the Eiffel Tower was built. And sort of around the Haussmann renovation.
So, okay, here's a question. Was photography around?
No. Photography is 1900 something, I think, or 1890 or something.
But not far from.
No.
So we're talking pretty modern times.
Yeah. You just reminded me that there's some, just on a total off note, there's some really cool black and white photos of the Paris flood.
Yeah.
And we saw our street is on one the other day.
That's kind of why it was on my mind.
And that's from 1910.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So anyway, we get up to Deauville, this new old city, but it looks old because it's got the classic half-timbered houses that are really common in Normandy.
Exactly. Like the half-timbered, where the top is like half-timbered. Well, the top is timbered. And the bottom has got this like brick checkerboard.
Yeah. Norman style,
right.
Anglo-Norman style. And it's really beautiful, although half of it's like fake. Like there's only a number of really old buildings, but they built the new ones in the old style. So like the police station, which is one of the first things you see when you get off the train,
is in the same style.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
But I think, like, yes, it is fake, but it's great. No, it's not fake. Fake is the wrong word, but it's aesthetically
I think
very
fake
beautiful.
is like, I think it's like faux Norman style.
Yeah.
I think that's what they call it. Anyway, so you walk down the main street, really lovely. I think this will sort of turn into 5 things to do as a sort of alternate title for this episode because we'll lay it out for you. And the first thing we did was check into the hotel, and believe it or not, they put us in a room at the same hotel that you talked about going to the toilet at, the Hôtel Normandy Barrière.
Which is like the hotel.
It's the Ritz of
it's
Normandy.
so iconic. And it's so...
Is it the Ritz of Normandy?
Ooh.
Certainly.
Big cool, but I like it.
But,
yes.
It's got to be the top hotel there in the town. But if you're on a day trip or you're on a low budget, you can go in and just look around. It's an institution, and they're actually really. I mean, we've done it a load of time in the past. They're up for people going in and having a look around.
Yeah, go grab a drink.
Yeah.
Sit in the bar. It's really lovely.
I was really curious about this Barrière family that ran it or built it because their names
they don't
everywhere.
just have the hotel.
They got
as
everything.
you said, it's everything.
And it's and I was like, my first, because I met the tourism board, I was like, what's the deal? Do people actually like this family that, has...
It's like tycoons.
Yeah, it feels like tycoon family. And
yeah.
they're like, well, they brought a lot of jobs. People seem to be really... And I was like, I never thought about it like that. But anyway, you see the name Barrière all over the place. And we'll get to the casino later because we have a funny story about that. But one of the first things we did is we went down to the beach, had a look around, and we'd heard... So I didn't know after several visits to Deauville that the horses were such a big deal.
No, I didn't know that either. Yeah,
So-
you know about the beach and the casino, but the horses, that was kind of news to me at least.
Someone had told me when I said that I was going to go up there, they said, make sure you see the horses running on the beach.
In the morning.
Yeah, and I was like, what do you mean horses running on the beach? You'll hear more about this in a sec. But we did see it. Really cool. Worth a look if you can make it. They run on wet sand in the morning. So one of the first things we did after the beach visit is I went and did an interview. And you haven't heard this yet.
I haven't.
But you're going to hear now from Fanny Hubert Salmon, Fanny Hubert Salmon, and sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. And she describes herself as a storyteller. Her family goes back in Deauville for ages. She works covering the horse racing news. Horses here are huge. And I mean, like, I had no idea. Horses, films, beach, casinos. That's the holy quadrinity there. So I went to the racetrack, the Hippodrome, and I interviewed her about it all. And if you listen carefully in the background, you hear horses running past. And maybe you'll feel like you're at the Hippodrome with us. Let's talk horses.
Yes.
Before I came on this trip to Deauville, I didn't actually realize that horses were such a big part of it. How did that possibly escape a typical tourist? Is it you need to know, like, how big a part of the city is horses?
We often like to say that the horse is the true religion in Deauville. At least our mayor likes to point out that the racecourse that we're in right now, the Latouque racecourse, they started building it before they actually started building the church. So the horse is our true religion. The city was built for and around the horses. It also coincided, and that's actually quite interesting, with the development of the trains, the railroads, and the Iron Horse helped make this city a leisure place built around all kinds of horse activities. You had horse racing, and people would come on the train. They could come for the day and go back, or they would come at the start of the season when the season in Paris was over. And when we're talking about this season, I mean, some people might have seen Bridgerton and how important in the high society the season was when you met everybody. They had a similar season in Paris. And when that was all over at the end of July, then people would go to different areas. And they built Deauville around that concept where people would move from from Paris, come here and enjoy the horse racing since 1865. Then the polo, you don't see it right now, but at the center of the racecourse are where the polo fields are. Every year they come, and if you just turn around, you might hear them. You have a set of horses getting ready to train on the Deauville racecourse. Now they live. Some of these horses stay here year round. In the past, it used to be that they would only come for the months of August, and they would come on trains, and you would have hundreds of horses getting off the wagons at the railroad station.
That's fascinating, and I'm sure people can hear those horses in the background, or maybe galloping past. This is the first Eiffel Tower interview with horses in the background. I'm interested, though, just partially because I live in Paris. The season finished in July. Is that because everything closes in Paris in August?
Yes. Well, and I think this is a heritage of how it used to be. And it was mostly the high society that escaped Paris in the summer, and then it became more popular in the 1930s for everybody to leave.
And do you feel that that's something still happening today, that it's high society coming for horses? I mean, like, typical tourists, are they looking for horse racing, or do they stumble upon it? Or
Well, typical tourists come for horse racing as well. Actually, some people come to Deauville for the racing. They built a horse vacation where they also go and see some of the horse farms. We talked about horse racing and polo, but we also have equestrian sports, show jumping, dressage, and people can do leisure rides on the beach too. I mean, you can go watch horses on the beach trained by professionals, but you can also do a leisure ride, and that's beautiful.
Can we talk about that horse? Because as I understand, they're on the morning beaches, on the beaches in the morning. The horses are all running. Can you walk us through that?
Well, technically they're not running. It's more like they're going to the spa.
Yeah.
For horses, they're animals of routine, so any change of pace and setting is good, and they enjoy the free air. For their limbs, it's really good to walk on the sand and also to walk in the water. For some,
Did you take all of, there's 500 horses here, you said?
no, they don't. They wouldn't. Not all racehorses go to the beach, because thoroughbreds, the racehorses that we have here are thoroughbreds, and they're crossed together, so they can be really nervous. And some horses really enjoy the change of routines. Some horses will just be spooked by the wind, the noises. So a lot of horses enjoy that time out. It's like their day at the spa. And some trainers will take all of their horses at least once a week when the tide is low enough. There are time restrictions. So if you go to the beach, I want people to not be worried that if they come and want to enjoy the beach and lay out their towels, they won't be run over by horses. It is not what's going to be happening.
The beach is so big, though, by the way. I was there yesterday. I couldn't believe how big it is. It would be easy to avoid a horse big.
Yes. But just to make sure, I think the beach is off limits for the horses after 10 a.m.
But I want to find that. So there's no... You said the horses are... creatures of routine.
Yes.
Is there a time that I could plan to get there tomorrow morning?
The earlier the better. If you go around 6:30.
Well, then let's be reasonable here.
Well, if you have a nice time and you're enjoying your partying, you can come out, pick up a croissant, watch the sunrise over the beach, and enjoy some horses as well. But no, you might see some as late as 8:30.
Okay. There's an urban legend we need to talk about. Because I'm very skeptical about all urban legends. You were mentioning before, maybe I'll let you say it, and then we'll pick it to bits.
Yeah, we go back to the horse being at the center of how and why Deauville was built. Some people looking at the original maps of the Deauville development like to see the head of a horse in the way the place was mapped out. It was actually very interesting. This place was made by bankers and investors, and they just gambled on the fact that people would be happy to buy fancy houses on the seaside on what used to be a swamp, because basically Deauville is swampland that was dried up. That's why we can be a little bit humid, but it makes it really nice, especially as the temperatures warm up. You're never too hot here. Well, knock on wood, we're rarely too hot here.
So I want to find one of these maps and share it on.
Yes.
But it looks in the shape of the horse's head. To kind of like how a cloud sometimes looks a bit
exactly. You can see an elephant in it if you want, but we can walk there. There's actually, I think there's one here on one of the walls. There's an exhibit, a photo exhit at the race course.
When people see Jesus's head in their piece of toast or something like that. Okay, we'll take a look at this and see what we think. But I know we're here to talk about horses, but I also know you know the city. Mm-hmm. I'm quite fascinated by the fact, a lot of the French, France's towns and cities and villages in general. Have really long histories. Paris is an obvious example, but it goes back thousands of years. It's kind of rare that that a town was built like this.
This is a very new city by French standards.
What is it like? How does that affect your day to day? Do you have the same? I'm genuinely curious. I live in Paris. Everything is old and there's lots of problems. A lot of people really find it charming. Is it kind of different life here?
Well, I think it almost looks like an American city where some of the streets are actually, at an angle that you usually don't find in other cities. It looks very much like some of the made-up resorts that were created at the end of the 19th century. It's got its charm. There's one street that reminds me of New Orleans, Bourbon Street. There are other places that remind me of Saratoga or Baden-Baden. It had that, little old, I don't want to say old-fashioned. I want to say old-fashioned doesn't really match because this is a very modern city at the same time. But it has that made for and by man instead of having things that keep being piled up on top of one another.
Well, that's because everything I sort of compare to Paris because that's where I live. But there are cities that are there are streets that have been defined by the Seine River or older rivers or parks or whatever or hills. Whereas it seems like because it was built on a swamp, it started from scratch here.
Exactly, and I think you see that a lot in the places that were built in that era. It's man-controlled, man-designed, and you don't follow the course of nature.
Is there anything that these guys that built Deauville got wrong? That today, when you look at it, you're like, gosh, they really messed that one up. Like the station's too far away, or the beach is too close. Or does everyone live here think it's perfect?
Well, I'm kind of biased because I grew up here.
Surely you'd want the race course to be in the middle of the town.
Of course. Where else would it be? And we don't have just one race course. We've got 2 race courses. Because, we're a city of, 5,000 people in the winter. But we've got 2 race courses. This is the most famous, most internationally renowned race course. You have horses coming to race here from Japan, from England, even from Australia. We've had some Australians. And the other race course is a little bit more quaint, more like your country race courses in Australia. And they actually race on the flat, over jumps, and they also have trotting.
Well, this is something that we need to explore. I think it's time that we take a little bit of look around.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for your time, Fanny.
You're very welcome.
So there you go, Fanny. Thank you very much. Lovely lady.
Yeah, but what was that conspiracy theory about the town map looking like a horse
I
head?
asked her the same thing, actually. I was really skeptical about that. So if actually, when we left, because we're sitting there looking out over the race course, and as we're leaving, there's a map of the town. And I was like, I took a glance at it, and I was like, where's the horse head? And I was like, when you see a cloud, and you see an animal there or whatever. I was
like
trying
a Rorschach test.
Yeah. And in Deauville, everything leads to a horse.
To a horse.
When they do the Rorschach test. I looked at it, I said to her, oh, I see the horse. And she goes, yeah, you see. I got a video of it.
Did you, though?
And then, no, that's the thing. I saw it looking the other way. And then she pointed up and explained it looking the totally other way.
Yeah,
and I was like,
cool.
oh, yeah, I guess I see it. So it was a bit of a...
I see. Bit of a stretch.
But cool that they built the first race course before they built the first church. That was something...
I mean, that says a lot.
Like she said, it's like original. Deauville is twinned with a bunch of cities around the world. One is the horse capital of the world.
Which is?
Lexington, Kentucky. So there's something for all you American listeners out there.
Yeah.
So after that, and something that we had no idea about when we frolicked around Deauville by ourselves, is the Villa Strasbourger. That's me doing it in a French accent. Even though it's
Villa Strasbourg.
Yeah, Strasbourg. This is something, it's kind of like, I think people should, if it's open, because it seems like it's tough to get in.
Yeah.
But I think everyone should try and see it from the outside. We talked a little bit before about these old half-timbered houses. So imagine one of these. I hope people can understand what we mean by half-timbered. And in Deauville, I don't think we mentioned the color.
It looks a little bit like a Hansel and Gretel, but more grand.
Yeah, or a pepper, what's it called? Pepper
Fox house?
Yeah, what's that?
Gingerbread
house, yeah.
Yeah.
Where the icing is a crisscrossing, but it's colourful wooden beams. And this villa, from a distance, looks like a sort of little cottage, but you realise it's actually massive. It's like 3 or 4 stories high. And it was built in this style, covered in flowers, beautiful green, light green, like the colours of Deauville, and built by the Rothschild family. You got to see this building. Although, as I understand, it's not that easy to get in. We got in through the back door, as it were. But if you can make it into there, really cool. Lots of pictures of horses. Lots of you can smell the party vibe that was there once. Yeah, right.
One of my favorite things was to meet the housekeeper, if you will, of the mansion, and she's this lady that's been there forever, and she stays. She's like, she doesn't want to retire, and she gets to stay in the little gatehouse.
Yeah,
is that
like
what you call it?
Like a little cottage outside.
Yeah, exactly. And she looks after the whole place. I just thought that was such a nice kind of old-fashioned addition to the whole story. It's
also
perfect.
felt a bit Agatha Christie,
right?
Didn't it?
It did.
Someone needs to set a murder mystery there.
Yeah.
Maybe it's me.
Maybe it's you.
You know what else I really liked? Mosaic in the lobby. Love a good mosaic. One of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, very good.
At this point, you went home with our son to put him to sleep. Home, as in the hotel,
Yeah.
the lovely hotel. I went and did another interview, and we haven't even talked about this. So I went to, there's a music, it's a really cool space, and we talk about it in the interview you're about to hear, but it's a former abbey, like the former abbey, and they've turned it into like a cultural spot and a museum. And when I do tours in Paris, and when our earful guides do the tours, we talk a lot about the marriage of old and new French history. So what that could be is like examples in Paris would be like there's an old bakery, the facade of an old bakery where they have the word boulangerie or whatever, and the panels of that, you know, in the Marais, I'm talking about this kind of beautiful old bakery, but today is a modern clothes shop.
Yeah.
You know, all the old butcher shops where you can see the meat hooks, but now it's like a computer shop. But they keep that old thing. I know a lot of
clues to the history.
I love that,
Yeah.
and that's what I think a lot of Americans and Australians I've met really appreciate it, because in those countries sometimes they tear things down to build new stuff. You know.
Yeah.
So I really like this museum because they kept so many details of this abbey and sort of part of the church and everything.
So the building in itself was
So you
quite
can imagine,
spectacular.
you know, like arched windows and all that kind of stuff and all that. But just done in a really modern way. I took loads of pictures. Anyway, you're about to hear from Annie Madivash, who's the director of the museum, lovely lady. We sat down inside the museum, peaceful, quiet, and had a chat.
So Annie, before we even begin, the word franciscaine, what is that?
It comes from the history of the place. It was a convent, and before becoming what it is today. And this was the Franciscanes family who managed the place as a convent.
So is that like, that's the name of the family? That's not the word for nuns or anything like that,
Yes,
right?
I said family. That's not correct, indeed. It is because this is the order of the Franciscan who managed the place.
Okay, right. And then this is, for the people who have no idea what we're talking about, this is a really, like a beautiful marriage of old and new. I love this kind of stuff. In Paris, I always go crazy when old things have a new touch. That's exactly what you've done here. What's the idea? What's the vibe here?
The idea was to keep the place because it's one of the oldest patrimonial building in Deauville. Deauville is a brand new city. It was built by the beginning of the 1860s, and here the first stone was put here by the 1870s. So it was very important to keep this place as one of the oldest of the city. And when the Franciscans decided to leave and to sell the building to the city, the architect who had been in charge of changing everything understood the sensibility of the place and what we wanted to do with it, and had very slight touches of modernism in it, and kept really this past very present nowadays. Even.
It's true, because there's like this this peaceful, calm feeling in here. I think a lot of the times when places get turned too modern, it can be noisy or confusing, whereas there's this sort of elegance in here that, I mean, I'm not an expert on convents or cloisters or chapels, but it feels like that sort of energy is being retained, I guess.
You're right, and in the same time, this is human size, so you don't feel overpowered by the architecture. It's not too big for us. It's somewhere where we can really feel peaceful. Perhaps the colors of the place, which are very light, and the materials which are used here everywhere, make the public feel comfortable. Perhaps that's what you felt.
I certainly felt comfortable. I felt like I could have gone to sleep down in that main room down there. Does that happen?
Yes, I have a photograph of someone upstairs. We have another place which we call it Art of Living, and there are very big sofas everywhere. And once I found someone sleeping open mouth, and it was very funny. I made no noise. I kept him.
You let them sleep?
Yes, of course.
They're probably still up there. Let's talk about one of the exhibitions that I just visited, Faites vos jeux.
Faites vos jeux.
Let's say it one more time so we can learn.
Faites vos jeux.
Faites vos jeux, which means like place your bets.
Yes.
The idea is it's all about casinos. I really liked it. I love James Bond movies.
Yeah.
And there's a heavy hand of James Bond down there.
Of course.
Why did you make that exhibition?
There is the casino in Deauville is something important. So as well as the convent was in the past here for Deauville, nowadays the place of the casino is really central. So the fact of creating an exhibition on this subject was like an evidence in here.
Was it your choice? Was it your idea?
No, it was not mine, but I helped for the exhibition. I tried and I found a few of the paintings, of the old paintings, and several of the old films. You say non-speaking films?
Yeah,
yes,
silent films.
Yes, which are the beginning. So this is not the history of the casinos. This is how to understand where did they come from, and nowadays the artists who have chosen, for example, dice to introduce dice in their creations, and so we have at the same time old paintings from the 17th century, contemporary art, videos taken from James Bond films.
Well, it feels like nowadays that because I never thought about it. When I walked in, there's a sign explaining that sort of you focused on three of the big, it sort of said the biggest three casino towns.
Yes.
Is Vegas, obviously.
Yes.
And then Monte Carlo, obviously.
Yeah.
But I never considered Deauville to be one of the... Is it considered to be...
That's... in France, this place is known as one of the major places for playing.
Even around the world as well?
I don't know. I don't know.
I
But to French people, I think Deauville is really famous for its casino.
And do you find that does that define the town? I mean, like we've talked about horses already in this episode. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like it goes hand in hand as one of the major...
The beach, the casino, horses, the three feet of Deauville.
The Trinity. What does that say about people from Deauville?
Oh, let's say a lot.
Is that a negative thing, maybe?
No, I think it's, of course, it's linked to leisures. It speaks about the way it was formerly thought about, probably. And nowadays with tourism, I think it's still something very important in the local economy.
May I tell you one of the pieces of art that really caught my eye? I think it sparked a midlife crisis in me, actually. There's the one, I can't remember who, maybe it even said anonymous on it, but there was 4 people playing a card game. There was
Yes.
time, love, man, and death.
It's anonymous, yes.
It's anonymous,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
How old is that painting?
It was made by the end of the 17th century,
And
yes.
It frightened me because winning the card game was death, the skeleton, with 4 aces, and it made me realize death always wins.
Yes.
I panicked when I looked.
This was not the purpose of the exhibition,
Maybe maybe it says something about me, I don't know.
But yes, life is a game, and as long as you live, you're playing. But by the end, time is looking over you, and death, of course, obviously.
Death has all the aces. It sounds like a Bob Dylan lyric or something like that.
Could be.
Yeah. But that's I read as well that game was called, I didn't know that word, brûlant.
Brûlant.
Brûlant. Okay.
It's a French word which is used in poker.
Okay. And I also took a picture as I was leaving. There was a really nice thing written on the wall about how casinos, all the characters of a casino, like the swindler or the gambler or the naive people or the sexy people or whatever. And I was like, yes, it's true. That's why like James Bond and everything focuses on these casinos so much. There's so much going on I never even thought about. I guess maybe I'm not a casino guy, but maybe I should be.
If you have time, you have to go
I'm
to
going
the
to
casino.
go. I'm going to go tonight for sure. I might never come out.
Perhaps. But indeed, there are lots of things which are taken from those old paintings, which are still true nowadays. And the cinema took these major characters from the old paintings and introduced them in the films and, of course, in James Bonds. So...
Which, incidentally, is, we said the Trinity of Deauville. The fourth leg or fourth arm would be cinema, surely.
Yes.
It all comes together.
Probably.
It all comes together.
Yeah.
Speaking of Deauville, I want to end on a question that's outside of the Franciscaine. If you could tell people listening around the world of one thing they should do in this town that's not your space, what would you recommend?
To go walking by the beach when the sun is going down into the sea and looking at the sunset, really.
Does the sun set on the sea? Is that the
Yes,
angle? Okay.
yes,
And
that's
is there a particularly good spot to go and watch it?
Beautiful.
Where's the best spot?
On the planks,
Uh-huh.
yes. So this is a really magnificent place to be when it's the evening is falling. It's really one place I love to go.
Perfect. Annie, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Faites vos jeux. There's one to learn. Lay your bet. Place your bets.
Place your bets.
You can hear it in like
Faites
the
vos jeux.
old James Bond. If you watch those old James Bond, which I just did at this whatever
The
exhibition,
exhibition,
they love to put in all these movies, Indiana Jones and everything. They love to have little French mumbled phrases in the background when
Very
they're-
sophisticated.
When they're speaking English. So someone going, "Faites vos jeux, faites vos jeux," that kind of stuff. I love it. It's great.
Never thought about that.
You've never seen a medley of casino.
Oh yeah, that makes
things
sense.
either. But it was very colourful. It was beautiful. Colourful though.
Colourful,
A
like
good-
the beach umbrellas.
A good segue, I thought.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, you've got the eye for colour and fashion. Mm-hmm. What do you make of those beach umbrellas?
Oh, I mean, speaking of iconic, they are so typical to... I mean, if you see these colourful beach umbrellas perched upon that big stretch of sand, beach sand that we mentioned before, I mean, it's so connected to Deauville. It's not like...
For people who've never seen them before, what are we talking here?
So we're talking about like kind of classic beach umbrellas, but they are all... They're either like yellow, like bright yellow with a bright blue sash around it, or the next one, they're not the same. So the next one to it is like orange and red, and it's stunning.
Like bold colours.
Very bold.
I have a criticism of them though. I found it really hard to get a good photo of
Yeah,
them.
they're hard to photograph. I don't know
'Cause
why.
they're spaced apart.
Yeah.
And you want to get
When
that...
you look at them with your eyes, it looks amazing.
yeah.
You know, but somehow through a lens, I think we needed our photographer.
Yeah, it wasn't available.
No.
So, you know what...
So you're stuck with our bad photos.
Everybody, now you'll understand why we have a photographer. You know what was very photogenic though? And very like Santa Monica in the States. They had one of those lifeguard.
Oh yeah, like the tower.
Yeah, lifeguard tower
Yeah.
that said Deauville on it.
Yeah,
I loved it.
yeah, perfect. It's like postcard perfect.
And these
Very Wes Anderson.
I thought the same
Yeah.
thing. I tried to take Wes Anderson
Even the
pictures.
beach umbrellas are Wes Anderson.
He'd do a better job on it for sure. The things though, you rent them. I think we didn't do that. We didn't. I tried. You know what was funny? All along that long promenade beach walk thing, which is really long, as in.
Yeah.
But it doesn't like it stops being.
Well, it's kind of like the epicenter of it. Everything happens within a few hundred meters,
And then nothing.
and then it is just a beach walk sort of.
Yeah. I talked to a couple who'd rented because all the way along they've written actors' names like Gene Kelly,
like a
Robert De
Walk of
Niro.
Fame almost.
Yeah. And you
Because it is little Hollywood.
We haven't even
right?
mentioned it is. They have the American Film Festival.
Yeah, that's a huge deal.
And they focus on smaller films, like they focus on art house kind of films because they want to find the next big thing. But the big names come as well because it's like
it's so cool.
It is cool.
We should go.
I'd love to.
We should go.
Let's
next
do that.
time.
Yeah. But so anyway, they got all the names of the famous actors and whatever, and then you rent a little cubicle kind of thing where you store your clothes when you go to the beach. And we didn't rent one. We didn't need one. But I saw someone who'd rented one, and I tried to ask them. I was like, "How much did this cost?" Just to make conversation with them and try and figure it out. They wouldn't tell me.
It was very frustrating. You
It was
had to
such
sort
a
of
weird
like
conversation.
Yeah, you had to
She's
kind
like,
of force it
I
out.
know.
You were like, "Is it expensive?" They were like, "Quite expensive." You're like, "How expensive?"
She's like, "You can go and ask them." And I was like, "Yeah, but
I'll
just tell me
ask
what you
you.
paid for it." She wouldn't tell me, so I have
you're
no
like,
idea.
Is it more than a night at a hotel? She's like, "Oh no."
Yeah.
It's like, but where?
It was
Where
so
do you draw
funny
the
to
line?
me that she wouldn't give me that information. And then I didn't want to go and get it. She probably found me really annoying. Anyway, no idea what they cost, but there's that option as well.
Our guess was like 30 euros.
Yeah.
Taken
maybe.
from nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out, though, to there were two older women. This is an idea of how friendly people were there compared to big city French people. Right. So remember we said the beach is very like long to the water, as in it would take you like 5 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
5 minute walk?
I mean, it's a
5
long
minutes?
walk.
It seems crazy, but it probably at least 3 minutes, right?
Yeah, sure.
So we had the stroller, and I would have called it a pushchair, but people email me. Say, "What's a pushchair?" It's true, a stroller, and
Wheels for a boy.
I didn't want to carry it 5 minutes across the sand, and there were two older women sitting there, and I said, "Look, are you guys going to sit here for a while?" They're watching the sunset on beach chairs, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll be here for a little bit." And I was like, "Do you mind if I leave my stroller here with you?" And they said, "Oh, I don't know about this. What are you going to do?" I said, "Just take my boy down for a swim in the beach." And they go, "Where are you from? You got an accent when you speak French." And I said, "Australia." And she goes, "We love Australians. You can leave this here with us for as long as you like." And I was like, "Really?" And they go, "Yeah, take your time. We love Australians." I was like, "Really? Okay."
And then she was like, "You get 15 minutes."
You know, people tell stories in Normandy of, because in the First World War, there were a lot of Australians fighting. And a lot of Australians died and helped the French out. And there's stories about Australian tourists breaking down in a car and French farmers coming out and being like, "Let me help you." Like, there's these, it's kind of crazy.
Wow,
Anyway,
fascinating.
maybe that was a carry-on of that. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, we left it, went down, had a swim. It was great. Came back, and I said, "Do you like Deauville?" And they loved it. And she goes, "I'm actually from Paris. This is the 21st arrondissement of Paris, after all."
She did
She
it.
did. She said it. So anyway, from there,
Some people like it.
I like it.
Yeah.
Laurent from Tourism Deauville didn't like it so much. From there, that night, back to the hotel. Lovely hotel, I should say. And they looked after us. I think they want us to say nice things about them, which is fair enough.
I mean, it's not hard to say nice things about that
No.
place because it is genuinely lovely. And the interior is all like Belle Epoque inspired. Oh, it's very nice.
I think any celebrity who's ever been to that town stayed there. They
Yeah.
got a wall of fame too.
Yeah, they do. It's impressive.
Coco
So
Chanel.
impressive. Some people are there twice.
A lot of actors.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that night, got the old babysitter in, went to the casino. And all I'll say is this. Much like when Leah and I were in Vegas many years ago, we went in there, two dolts from the countryside, with a little bit of cash, walked out with a little bit...
of cash.
Yeah, full disclosure.
It's the truth.
Full disclosure, 10 euros each in cash. In fact, it was a 20, and we go into the guy. We're out of our depth in casinos, to be fair. We go into the monsieur standing there. I say, "Hey, can I have 2 10s for this?" And he gives it to us, and he gives us a look as if to say, "Never see you again, suckers." And I slide 10 over to Lena, 10 over to me. We spend, I'd say, 10 minutes in there.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding.
Ding dong, daddy.
Walked out of there. Walked in with 20, walked out with 50. So, not many
amazing.
people beat Deauville, but we did.
yeah.
And we didn't really know what we were doing.
Beat the house.
But it was pretty fun. And then we went back to the hotel, had a nice cocktail. Can totally, 100% totally recommend the hotel bar. Like, I love that place.
Yeah.
So if you find yourself in Deauville, go and have a drink there.
It's very like old world.
Second night done. It was time to go back to Paris. And gotta say, honestly, great weekend trip.
Oh, the perfect one.
Even if you...
I love it.
I think even if you're not, like... It doesn't matter if you don't care for horses, because maybe it sounded like horses is everything there.
Yeah.
We've...
Also, it doesn't really matter if you don't care for like the beach. You know, you don't have to be lounging on the beach all day. It's not about that either. You know, it's the whole atmosphere.
I think the fact that we've been there
There's
3 or 4
something
times...
for
there's
most
something
people.
about it.
Yeah.
So consider it on your next trip. I don't know, side trip from Paris. Consider Deauville. We had a lovely time. Can heartily recommend. Also, I'll give a little shout out to the last episode. Jane Webster, the Chatelaine, knew we'd be doing Dias for Deauville. So if you listened carefully, she mentioned Deauville and she recommended a restaurant, Drakkar, which is also a D. Drakkar
Where
in Deauville.
we happened to have lunch.
We certainly did. So we met her there afterwards.
Yeah.
So if you guys think I'm not planning ahead on these episodes, I'll give you a clue. I've already given a clue on this. And when I say I'm giving clues, I might be giving clues for episodes 10 in advance here. Because for the first time, I'm extraordinarily prepared. So listen carefully. Keep your ears peeled.
Very sneaky.
Ears for ear. Keep your ears peeled. And keep an eye on social media where I'm uploading loads of extra stuff about these episodes. And I'll be doing the same this week for Deauville. A big shout out to Pres Maxson for his music. Eddie G for his editing. The Deauville Tourism Board for providing us with this amazing trip. The Patreon members, without whom I would not be doing this show. Patreon.com/The Eiffel Tower. And guess who I'm talking to this week, right now? I'm talking specifically to you, that person out there who every week hears me very briefly mention Patreon and thinks, I should really do that. I'm going to do that. This week is your week. So I'm talking to you, Stephanie.
Stephanie,
Once
huh?
I did that and someone by that name signed up and felt guilty. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty, but if you're enjoying it,
Google most common name.
I'd love to see you as a member. That's how all this works. But anyway, I'll be back again next week with an episode on E, and it's going to be a fun one.
What could it be?
It's going to be a fun one. It's gonna, There's going to be... I don't want to give away too much, but there's going to be a competitive edge to it.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Competitive edge, huh?
That'll do for us. You've been listening to the Eiffel Tower. My name is Oliver G.
I am Lena Norden G.
And wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whoever you are, Stephanie, have a lovely week. And we'll be back before you know it.
Thank you.
Au revoir.